Welcome to another edition of Lighting Feedback. I am excited to go through these, so let's get started. Let's start with Carolina. I know I just wrote in the chat that this is approved, but I want to officially say approved. I love it. I think it's great. Now let's look at where it started and where it ended up. And yeah, I am super happy with it. I hope you are too. And we went through a lot of, very subtle things in this one. Because I will say, this is a very strong first entry. And we'll just looking also at your reference and comparing the final to your reference. And I'll say, so close to the reference now, where it's like that soft kind of bridge between the warm and the cool, a really nice gradient from the all the different levels of light from the brightest spot to the darkest spot. It's similar to what we're seeing in your reference. And while the first one was great, it was missing a lot of that fine detail, right? Kind of like the vignetting, going into the dark areas, as we said, like subtle things like the bounces, the nice gradient that you got from the door. So, really well done. I hope you love it. And yeah, can't wait to see another piece of lighting from you. Now, moving on, let's go to Holly. So, Holly, this is your latest, great, and this was previously. And I see that, yes, you did darken, brought down the overall ambient and the key light. And yes, we are now seeing this character. So good job on fixing those shaders. Overall, and now I'm just going to look at the reference really quickly. A couple callouts I just noticed with looking at the latest is overall your scene's gotten quite warmer. Overall in tone, and that's the overall key, like ambient, but then so what I am really looking at is your reference is pretty cool actually, especially in the overall environment. So one call out, bring back the coolness that you get from the sky, and overall it's getting overly warm now. I think it was a little closer here. I think it's good that you toned it down. Another thing I'll say is, I'd like to see, well, one, now that we're seeing the robot that with the shaders fixed, I kind of like the call out. I believe it was Sergey or someone previous to me that mentioned that this is more neutral toned and monotone with the color palette. And I like that about this, and I think this would help bring it back there. So with that in mind, I would also neutralize this robot too, because now this bright green is kind of popping out to me. I think would be interesting here too is you could play with kind of I've seen this kind of like a gray, a dark gray or metallic-y, almost rusty feel. I think that could be cool with the neutral color palette here, so I'll take a look at that. Overall, and then after that, I'd say let's push some depth here. We're gonna cool off the ambient, the area light. I think we could also reduce the size of the area light so we can have more variety, more depth in the a fade off in the light per se. So for example here, I want this background building to recede, to feel darker, and I know we're in daylight here, and it's not going to be a dramatic thing, right? It's not going to be this is, nighttime here and daylight here in the foreground. It's just kind of creating that depth, almost like an atmospheric, but not quite, because we're not in landscape, but it's creating that depth, having the characters pop, and I think this is what one of your iterations when we were talking about getting the characters to pop. And a way of doing that is light against darker, right? And now this is kind of all around the same tone. But when you say darker, like just this background pocket here gets a little bit faded into darkness as it goes back here. And when I say darkness, again, I don't mean night. I just mean a little bit less prominent. So this will kind of bring it out and it'll pop it out too. Another thing to look at for your background is, that's going to help to give a grad here this way, but also like, this way and that way to really hone your eye in. And the shot is a little tricky because the camera moves, right? So it's not just, it would be easier if it was just one static camera, because then we could really frame in, I'd say like vignette it here, and back there, but as the camera moves, it still works, right? This is where it gets interesting when you're lighting an animated camera or sequence, because ideally the lighting works at all angles. So this would work at all angles if I were to, I wonder if I can draw, let's say I was, let's try to do this. You do like a floor plan of this. So let's say that's the street. This is the background building. This is the characters here. I'm not on a tablet, so obviously not my best drawing. So let's say, and these are the buildings here, right? So let's say, this is a great drawing, by the way. Okay, so that's the background building. This is where the camera is, like in this scene, the camera is like right here, right? And then also in this, so let's call this 2. In this scene, we should do a different color. So 2. In this frame, 3. Obviously it's actually more like there. 3. So this is 3 here. It's gonna be my best paint of ever. And 1 is, looks like it's like right here or something like that, right? So actually, if we look at it, it's pretty, we can definitely light it to frame and be successful in each one of these angles. So for instance, like I said in that first comment, let's darken out this section, have this fade off a little bit, and then what it would do is have this area fade off a little bit. So what if that area light is a soft area light right above here? So this is like the pocket of light. And again, I'm going to say this again, not super dramatic. We're not going from like daylight here in this pocket to deep dark here. It's just that nice subtle grad, so you get the variety and intensity. And it's a gradual fall off. So like this is going to be the brightest spot here, and then it falls off. And then the key light, let's have the key light have a specific area as well, so it really highlights the character. Let's talk about the position of this key light actually. So if I look at your reference, okay, I do see where you're going, like especially here. The key is coming from here, just kind of, wait a minute. Oh, down. So disregard. This is where it gets interesting sometimes when I'm looking at key lights. I'm like, where is that key light coming from? It's going down. I mean, and you know why I know that? Right there. That shadow. Boop. It's telling me the key light is pretty much down in that way. And then this is like nice rims going on. So if that is the case, imagine for yours, the key light for yours is definitely coming from that angle. What if it was more down? Top. A top key with a little bit of an angle, like here. Apologies. If you're following this, awesome. Um, I think that's where you do it, and then you'll get more hits. Here, especially him, he'll get more hits too. So try that. I mean, it's pretty much there already. You're getting that top angle, but let's do that some more, and let's soften the key light too. But yeah, okay. There's a lot going on here. To sum up, let's just do two things. Let's bring in that area that you have on top and get the grad on the set to kind of create that depth. Also help pop the characters out, and let's cool that environment light as well, because it's getting way too warm now. And then also let's try to get, I did say two things. This is the third one, and I'm going to focus all on kind of the environment lighting and the overall intensity of the entire scene to get that down, and then we're going to go to key. And then, so if you can get some contact, like this is feeling, there's no contact shadows anywhere. It's interesting. I'm wondering why that is. It's feeling super flat. So let's get some contact shadows in there as well. Get some grounding. Okay. I think that's good. Can't wait to see the updates on this. Keep on going. Next up, we have Samuel with an update. So this is the latest. Amazing. This is the one previous. Great. Perfect. I love, the eye. You brought that back, but not as much as here. You did the kind of split the difference. And this this is like my favorite. That note you hit, great, perfect. Look at that. I love how it grounds in so much nicer now. And the eye, everything's working so well. And I love to compare it with the first one. But for some reason, yours doesn't compare. Why does it compare? It doesn't want me to compare it. Well, we can just do it this way. That was your first iteration. That's your latest. Wow, what a difference. I think it's looking great. You know what I'm going to say? Approved. Woohoo! Bells, whistles. Woo! This is where I wish I had sound machines, but I don't. Really well done, seriously. I think, over a short period of time, we really, I said you did an amazing job to up level this, because the first iteration was not bad, right? But now look at the final. So different in that, I'm looking now at this character. Everything else is complementing it. It's part of the set. It doesn't necessarily feel like he's not in this. He's in the environment fully, but he's also the star of the environment. Where here, I was not sure, right? And I especially lost his face in the first iteration, but now, wow, this right here, this eye, this area, he's really looking at me. It's the first thing I'm looking at, the last thing I'm looking at. Great job, really. I can't wait to see your next one. Moving on, we have Mr. Bean. So, Lucifer here. The latest one is this one. Awesome. Okay. Let's take a look. I like the ear. The ear has gone down for sure. And overall, the key, It looks great. My one thing I'll say is I noticed you changed the background. And now the background, I gotta say, super distracting. Why are there these two hot spots here? And why is it so much brighter than now Mr. Bean? Like, I'm confused. If this was his background, would it fit? I don't think so. I think it's too bright. But my biggest things are it is super distracting. These two bright hot spots here. You never want to do that. So, let's tone that down. I didn't mind this one as much, but I see if you're trying to put something in the background, like with more definition, more kind of environment. If you have leeway and, composite for color grading this down without clamping, without making it feel like you are just exposing it down, do that. If not, let's get it something else. Really, I would maybe look into another backplate just because these two hot spots, even if you do tone it down, it's always going to be super bright and distracting. Where if you look at your reference, you don't really have that, right? What you're looking for, if you're looking for another background, is, and you can even do it with this one and just grade it, honestly, but if you just squint and you look, so the key here is you have a light source coming from that direction, and then a little bit of darkness, and I mean, this isn't even a light source. I could say you even get away with, half of that. But I think the key is having the light source right here and just keeping it to this tone. Nothing as strong as right here. So that is what I do with that one. The other thing that stands out to me on this one, I think, we're getting the shaping in there, definitely the eyes. The eyes need to now fit into his lighting and his face. So the key thing is, one, it's pretty radioactive, his irises. And I see, it's kind of like that here, too, on his, but toned down by, 80%, right? It's, I can see that, but here it's just super hot. And I actually did do an exposure down on this before, just my own testing, and this value here on the eyes, super high, way high. I can tone this down and he would be completely dark and the eyes are still radiating. So let's bring this down a lot, 90% a lot. And I'm talking about the red iris area. And then I think you'll get some more detail when you do that. And then the other thing is, after you do that, this eye, specifically the eye white, should go darker than this one here, right? Because look, he's sitting in shadow right here. So let's bring that eye a little bit in shadow. It should be darker than this eye here. And I think, honestly, the eye whites and everything are good here with the eye level. I think for this eye, we just need to bring down that iris kind of fiery tone. But overall, I think it's looking great. And the hair, I'm actually liking this a lot, this kind of speck here. And I don't mind that it's this graphic kind of feel here where it gets dark. I think depending on where we land with the background and whatnot, we could lift this just slightly to get some more information here. But looking here, I mean, it does align. This does go pretty dark, so I'm okay with that for now. Get these two, the background and the eyes, in a good place, and I think we're really close. So, yeah, I can't wait to see the update. Again, I think that's about it for this round. It's been really good. We've got 2 approvals on here. We got this approval, and we got Carolina's approval. Amazing. We're getting some great progress from Holly. I think it's really good, especially just that one thing about the shader, right? Figuring out the shader, that's huge. And Mr. Bean is definitely getting there as well. So I can't wait to see everyone's updates and all the new submissions that will come in this week. With that, happy creating!